a dar unas palabras también. Vamos a presentar a Leonardo Ríos. The next speaker we have is Leonardo Ríos, who will be giving us a couple of words regarding the class of 2010.
Surprise. Hello. My name is Leonardo Ríos Márquez, and I'm here to tell you about a vision I had. A vision of a person who was born into this world that he or she knew nothing about. A world teeming with heterogeneous monsters we theorize about. Racism, injustice, poverty, oppression. Problems built upon problems, built upon problems, built upon sadness. But that person didn't know anything yet. That person was concerned with more immediate needs, like kicking and wiggling little arms and feet, amazed at the tender power and growing dexterity of his or her limbs. I'm talking about a baby, a beautiful baby, brown, white, black, or a shade of everything. A few years later, that baby would harness the power of speech. Ama, apa, caca. A few years later, that baby would understand the most dangerous word of all, no. No, no hagas eso, no digas eso, no hables español. No, you can't go to school because your hair is dirty, because they can't pronounce your name, and because you have to work to support the familia. I stand before you today to tell you that my vision of this baby is alive and real. They're all sitting here with us, adorned in black robes on top of nice dresses or a modest shirt and tie. I stand before you today to conjecture some things about these people who are as beautiful as the day they were born. After learning the word no, they began to say yes. Yes to the educational system. Perhaps this system is broken, perhaps it still is. A few years later, some might have been pushed out or come close to by a leaky pipeline. School's not for me, they might have said. My counselor says I shouldn't take AP classes. I don't have legal documents, so education doesn't consider me a human being. My family disowns me if I'm not a virgin, or the homies don't include me because I like books. Inevitably, these people continued to say yes and graduated high school. During the UCLA years, a few things happened to these people. They might have learned what the word Chicana and Chicano meant, and their friends and teachers from back home might have asked, when did you become Mexican all of a sudden? Or, since when do you like banda music all of a sudden? They might have protested injustices, legalize me, or walk out. They might have worn Greek letters of a problematic system, and they cherished their brothers or sisters anyways. They might have listened to narco corridos while studying English literature. 500 balazos, armas automáticas. They might have explored or asserted a sexual identity that California voters unfortunately don't think is valid yet. They might have felt that UCLA wasn't for them because the microaggressions became macro monster aggressions. Others might have joined great organizations that include but are not limited to Mecha, Raza, LGC, Ideas, CCM, FSP, TSP, vaya some beer. Grupo Folclórico de UCLA, La Familia, USAC, HU, HA, you know I can keep going, but I won't. This speech is called A Few Years Later because we can all trace our life path to the beautiful baby I began talking about. Everyone here at one point began to say yes to education and consequently yes to the advancement of their communities. Each and every one of these graduates, when they tell their life story 20 years from now, will be able to say, a few years later, I graduated from UCLA. See, it's important to look back on our life paths in order to look forward. A few years later, you all will be somewhere in a different time and space, and it is up to every one of us to actively condition the visions that future people will have of us. Another speaker in the future might start off similar to how I did, talking about the exact same people, and say, I had a vision of a person born into this world, and because of that person, this world is better. That person unlearned the word no. A few years later, advocated for the DREAM Act, and a few years later, it was passed unanimously. Got married, got a job, and was happy. A few years later, that person embodies Cesar Chavez's words that read, "Once social change begins, it cannot be reversed. You cannot uneducate the person who has learned to read. You cannot humiliate the person who feels pride. You cannot oppress the people who are not afraid anymore. We have seen the future, and the future is ours. You cannot say no to the people that have said yes for so long. You cannot say no to this 2010 graduating class." Until a few years from now, La paz les dejo, la paz les doy. The speech is now ended. Let us give thanks to God, Allah, Tonantzin, Buddha, or Krishna, if they're down for mine, and Cesar Chavez's words, gracias.
Thank you, Leonardo. Gracias. So next, we're going to be having our keynote speakers. First off, we have Octavio Pescador, and after him, we will have Mike de la Rocha. Ahorita vamos a presentar a otros dos hombres que van a dar unas pocas palabras para la clase del 2000.